Hi, welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we're talking about healing yourself with nature, the healing impacts of nature, and how to nourish yourself. Ooh, what a juicy topic.
And I think that this is such a fun topic because I love to talk about stuff like this. I'm really into the whole biohacking thing. I think that's super fascinating, how people are essentially extending their lifespans and trying things that are, new and innovative to have a better life. And I think that nature plays a big role in this. I think everything that we have and everything that we have developed has been developed from nature in its original state. So yeah, I'm totally down for this topic.
Yeah. And this is like the precipice of abundance. Our world, our universe is abundant. And that includes nature. Nature is abundant. And I believe that everything that we need has been given to us on the land. Like if you need to heal yourself, like the medicines, the remedies, all of it was meant to help us thrive in this planet we live on.
Yeah, for sure. When we were first talking about this, one of the things that we were talking about was I think I'd brought up the pharmaceutical industry, which is a real hot button with me, especially these days. But one of the things that we were talking about was the aspirin, for example. Aspirin was actually derived from willow bark. The same compounds that are used in aspirin are basically willow bark. It's the salicylic, the chemical names obviously change a little bit, but originally that's the original aspirin is willow bark.
And that's something that I'm just realizing, whether it's I was naive or just didn't learn about it, or we don't talk about it in our society, but even seeds, like going one step away from pharmaceuticals, but like pharmaceuticals, seeds, they've these things have been synthetically created to mimic what that vitamin or that plant or whatever was doing or contributing, so that it could be patented and then it could be sold and a profit earned off of it. Because with the au natural version, you can't patent it. You could grow certain things. Willow bark, I think, is what you just said, right? For aspirin. So you could grow willow bark and you could sell clippings of willow bark or willow bark salve or things like that. But you can't patent it. And that's where I think a lot of the pharmaceutical industry, and now I'm learning the seed industry, makes their money, is because of these patents.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's so many things about nature that are really special. And, I think when we were talking about this topic, we were talking about, how we'd love to get into, more holistic ways for medicine, even more so than the homeopathy. There's a lot of these medicines are built into, homeopathic little tablet things, they're like little balls basically, and so I think it would be really fascinating. And if there's somebody who's watching this who knows about this kind of stuff, we'd love to talk with you and maybe have you on the show, because we would love to talk about how some of the pharmaceutical versions of these drugs are actually already found in nature, and your body will know better how to assimilate and utilize the medicine if it's in a natural form.
Well, yeah.
I digress.
Well, no, I think that that's right on point, because a conversation, like you and I come from completely different backgrounds. You know, you grew up in the States in Arizona. I grew up in Alberta, Canada. I grew up on a farm. You grew up in a city. And you've always been a huge advocate for organic and grass finished beef and like different things. And because I've felt comfortable with you, I've felt comfortable to open up and ask you some questions, because some of it never made any sense to me. You know, like what's the difference? Like, what's the big deal? I don't really get it. Like, I come from a farming background and I know farmers are good, like they're the land keepers, they're the custodians of the land, they're the feeders of the people. They feed the people. That's their job. So what got so messed up inside of that, and that has led me to learn about our food that we consume in a broader sense, and about nature and this topic itself, like how am I nourishing myself. And I was shocked that some of the vitamins that I was taking were so full of fillers, and because they're synthetic, my body is not it's not doing any good. Like, paid $30 for that bottle of vitamin whatever, and it's just coming out the other end.
Yeah. Well, and and that's the thing, is that I'm trying to be politically correct in what I'm saying, because I don't want to, inflame the, hooligans that might see this video. The thing is that our food system as a whole has been completely manipulated and drained of its nourishment, right? There has been the commercial farming industry, the commercial food industry, the commercial, pretty much anything that's been commercialized has kind of been destroyed, and it's been destroyed over profits. Look, I get it. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to have all the money. Everybody wants that, right? I mean, well, we'll just, for the sake of this argument.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is that when you've manipulated the system so much to where a strawberry isn't a strawberry anymore, what are you doing? Why are you doing it?
That's right. Well, and I think further to the profits, us in society, we've been programmed that it has to be right now, fast. It's got to be fast. It's got to be cheap. It's got to be easy. Like, we were always trying to save time. And, instead of making a pizza, like making the dough yourself, whatever, you will buy a pizza because it's cheaper and it's going to take less time. It's about like this effectiveness. And we're losing so much by having that be one of the highest values of our society. Like, fast is a value of our society. There's another word and I can't think of the actual word, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Right. And the thing is like, it doesn't need to be that way.
No.
There was a time when people actually enjoyed preparing food. They enjoyed, the food was made with love, and food was symbolic of that relationship to love. And it's sad that we've gotten away from that. Like, anyone who knows me personally knows I am a huge fan of food. And the more of an experience it is, the more I love it. And it's very personal to me that the food that I consume be of high quality, because everything that goes into my mouth comes out in my hair, skin, nails, personality, attitude, digestive health, fertility, all of it. It's all connected, right? And so everything that is happening with people and their health and their mindset and just what they're going through, it all stems back to the food.
Yeah.
You ask a bodybuilder, about losing weight or gaining muscle mass, or, whatever, insert your ailment here that you're in the gym talking to this bodybuilder about, they'll tell you it's 80% food.
That's right. Well, and I think further to that, it's not just the type of food, like, okay, you got to lay off the pizza and have a salad. More like the thing is that really, keep me up at night or get me going is learning that the wheat that we produce today, like in my backyard, literally, not us, but the farm next to us, whatever, like all these farmers that I know and that I love and I grew up with or whatever, the wheat that they are planting has almost zero nutritional value. What? What? It has almost zero nutritional value. And why are they planting it? Like, let's walk this through. Why are they planting it? Well, the big grain terminals will only take certain types of wheat, this being one of them. I've also heard that, there's been many cases over the years that they started genetically modifying these seeds so that they could patent them, essentially, so they could patent them, and that you couldn't save your own seeds. Like back in the day, that's what farmers did, is they saved seeds and then they would replant them the next year. Well, you're not allowed to do that because it's not yours. You don't own the rights to said seed anymore. So that's, how the industry has come in and started taking over things. So they modified it so that they could patent it, so they could make money off of it. Okay, great. But in that process, over the years, it's become so nutrient deficient. And I grew up on a farm and didn't know that. And I bet you there's a lot of farmers who don't actually know the nutritional value of said wheat that we produce now. And they're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place, because if that's the only thing that the elevator will take, what are you going to do? Try and find a local source for it. And then you add on regulations on top of that. Like, I know with meat, it's a little bit more particular. I think with wheat, you might be able to have acres and acres of einkorn, which is an ancient grain that is super healthy and good for you. Lots of nutritious value there. You could do that, but then how do you offload 80 acres worth of this special grain? Now you got to find a market yourself. So they've made it so easy and so cumbersome on the other side, that if you do anything different or you attempt to do anything different, it's difficult to scale. It's difficult to make money, all of those things. So we've really put ourselves into this pickle of, we don't really know what our food is and how nutritious it actually is. What?
Yeah. And that's a big thing, like for me is, I could go on and on about this topic. I really could. I'm trying to keep it within a time frame here, because I could literally just tell you so many things that would blow your mind about food and the food system, and and which is why it's
blow it. Come on.
I mean, the reason that so organic, GMO, non-GMO, right? Yeah. Non-GMO, and a lot of people know this already, but for those that are listening that don't, you can buy something that has a label of non-GMO, but that doesn't mean that it's organic. But if you buy something that's organic, it means it's also non-GMO. There are foods in our food system that have been genetically modified so much, they are literally like 2 or 3 molecules away from being plastic. Like for real.
For real.
For real. When you look at the meat industry, okay, I am a huge advocate for eating meat. So I want to just preface this as I am a meat eater. So all of you vegans that are listening to this are going to totally love this conversation, because you're gonna be like, this is why I don't eat meat. But, the commercial meat industry, it is so laden with chemicals. The animals are not being cared for properly. They're packed in, there's, so many cows per, square, lot. Exactly. It's so you've got these animals that aren't being cared for. The dairy industries in cahoots with, the meat industry and the government and all of this stuff to bring you basically pus in the form of milk, cheese, whatever, and your meat is not too far off from that either.
Well, I have heard that they like tenderize it with certain chemicals, and that some of the times, I don't know, I saw this on TikTok, so it could be completely wrong, but when I feel into it, it feels correct. Some of the cheaper quality meats, when you think you're eating fat, it's actually glue. It's not
Right.
fat at all. It's not meat at all. It's just something, like this is like bologna, but it looks like a steak. And you paid for a steak and you got bologna.
Right.
It's essentially
Exactly.
it. Like, it's holy cow. Wow. But I want to go back to the GMO conversation for 1 second. Because
wait, before we do,
Okay.
hold on, put a pin there, because I just want to say one thing
Okay.
about this meat and dairy industry. That's not all bad.
No.
So if you are looking for, because I kind of just dropped that bombshell, and I just want to come back around to that of, you can totally find regenerative farmers that are doing it the right way. They're feeding the right way. It's grass fed, it's grass finished, it's pasture raised. It's been loved and cared for the way that farmers actually want to love and care for their animals. So I just wanted to put that there. Now we can come back to GMO.
Okay. Yes. And I completely agree. And this isn't a crap all over farmers day, cattle farmers, or, crop farmers or anything like that, because I think that the industry itself, the governing bodies of the industry have really tied their hands. There really is no other option for them if they want to stay in farming. And farming is very, very expensive. Like, take a look at a tractor, ladies and gentlemen. It's close to $1 million. Brand new, even,
Right.
A 5-year-old tractor. We've been looking for a tractor for our farm for the last 4 years without luck, because we didn't want to pay $100,000, $70,000 for a decent tractor. And we just got a tractor and we didn't pay that. So, thank you, universe. Where I wanted to go with the GMO conversation is because I don't know a lot about GMO. So my understanding is genetically modified organism, or I think that's what the O stands for, whatever.
Mhm.
What was shocking for me, though, is I think there is different levels of modification. And the reason why I say this, and I don't know, so somebody correct me if you know the actual truth, but the reason why I say this is because things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, they were all modified. We didn't have them. They created them by putting plant A and plant B together, is my understanding. So there is some genetic modification that we've done to create even an easier one that I know for sure. There's like a plum and an apple, and you put it together, and I think it becomes something really delicious. I've eaten it before, but I mean, they're basically taking a part of one tree and they're grafting it to the other tree, and then the genetics do its thing and whatever, and then it creates this new fruit. And I'm sorry, I can't speak intelligently on it, but that's all that I have got. So there is genetic modification that is being done on different levels. Do you know more about that topic, Heather? Can you speak more intelligently to it?
Well, you're right. It is on different levels. So there are genetically modified for like resistance to pests and resistance to disease. And that's probably one of the bigger forms of GMOing that happens, is because, if they can create a strawberry that's not going to get eaten by the birds and all the little bugs and everything else, they're going to be able to have a bigger yield and therefore make more money. But there's also genetically modifying, like you're talking about, of, basically crossing two species to create something else.
Yes.
And that type of genetic modification, I feel personally, and I don't have any scientific studies to back up this, what I'm about to say. This is just my own intuition. I feel like mixing two vegetables together to create a new vegetable, that is less harmful, in my opinion, than modifying a vegetable to be disease resistant and pest resistant. Because if it's disease resistant and pest resistant, you are also consuming the disease resistance and the pest resistance.
Well, and they
And
make
so
them like
it's
pesticide resistant, like chemical resistant too. So when they spray chemicals on the crop, it doesn't kill the crop. So Roundup is an example of that. We'll use Roundup to kill weeds or something. You know, now they've genetically modified these plants so that they don't consume the Roundup and they don't die, because that's the whole point of Roundup, is to kill the weeds. So, and it's not discriminate. Like anything it touches, grass, weed, like it will kill those things. So when they've modified this plant, they've said, when you feel this chemical on you, don't die, don't take it in, whatever, right? That is the genetic modification that you're talking about, is those kinds of things. Okay.
right, exactly. So, that's not natural. It's not natural to, not die under the influence of a pesticide.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, when you are consuming an item that is like that, what is that doing to you? Because basically, we're all just big plants.
We are.
We're big carnivorous plants.
Yeah.
So if we are consuming this, what does that mean for us? So when we talk about nourishing ourselves, I feel like the food is really, really important. And one of the things that when I'm working with my clients on, anytime somebody has like a session with me, I always give them an integration protocol. And as part of that protocol, I give them resources for where they can source their food. Now, they're United States resources. If I have a client that's in another country, I will do my best to try to update those resources with resources that they can get. But the fact is that when you are consuming the food, you are consuming the genetics, the chemicals or anything that they were treated with, and you are consuming their energy. And that is the most important thing when it comes to food. You're consuming the energetic value of what it is that you just put in your mouth.
Yeah.
So if your water is full of chemicals, if your water is coming from a place that everybody hates that it's there, if your food is not grown with love and the animal is like slaughtered in a way that is not in appreciation for the life that it's giving. These are all things that change and make up the energetic value of your food. So for us in our house, we're really rigid when it comes to food and water. So all of our food is organic. We do not, every once in a while, we'll have something that's inorganic. And I tell you what, I can totally taste it. It's so weird. It's just the craziest thing. If we can find it from like a farmer's market or something like that, we will. Our farmer's markets here surprisingly aren't very good. So we've definitely hit a little bit of a food desert when it comes to vegetables here. So we're going to grow our own.
A garden. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, but like all of our meat is pasture raised, grass fed, grass finished, and we find out exactly how the animal is slaughtered. What happens to the animal? What happens to the bits of the animal that are not in my package of steak? Do you use the entire animal from nose to tail? Like these are all things that are really important to me from a spiritual level. I don't want to eat something that the animal was only slaughtered for its fillet and the rest of the animal just is like, oh, feedlot, like just send it off, the pigs eat it. I want that whole animal to be consumed. you know, and I want to know that the farmer has taken care of the animal and has appreciated the animal. And before I eat it, I thank the animal for giving me life, because there's that energetic exchange, and it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
When
so
it
agree with
comes
that.
to, yeah, when it comes to even things like our eggs, you know, I'm very crazy about eggs, right? Like, I want to know, how are these chickens being treated?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And there's a lot
do
of
you play them music?
misnomers. Yeah. But
Mhm,
there's a lot of misnomers, like, on the big corporate packaged eggs, like the big
mhm.
egg farms. Yes, you call them chicken farms, whatever. They'll say like free range or like free run or like something like that. And when you start to look at the details of what that means, in some places, certain words mean they have an opening where they can go outside. But the reality is that they never do, because the whole flock stays inside. So they all stay within, and none of them actually go outside to utilize the free range, because they're they're like sheep. They just follow each other around. Like, there's just, if you put one outside, or you led one, I don't know how you lead a chicken. I feel like that's impossible. Maybe you like took a little food and led them out the hole and other chickens watched, then I think they would go. But I mean, that's it's disheartening, and it's kind of shady that you could just have an opening and then now those are free range chickens, but they're not actually outside. And I mean, this stuff happens with like tuna, dolphin safe tuna. Is it really safe from dolphins? Like, were any dolphins killed in the process? To me, that means no dolphins at all ever killed in the process. And that's not quite accurate either.
Well,
So,
and you look at the fisheries, you're bringing up the fisheries, and the fisheries are another glaring example of where the food system's broken.
mhm.
Sustainable. Okay, sustainable fishing sounds, oh yeah, this is good for the environment, right? No, all it means, and wild caught, right? Wild caught and sustainable sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But wild caught and sustainable is, the fish farm is in the ocean, it's in the wild, in a net, they're in there, and it's sustainable because they're being farmed in their natural habitat inside
What?
of a net,
What?
right? Right. And the thing is that, these when you have them in this condensed space, they get sick,
Mhm.
right? There's not enough water moving, there's not enough nutrients, they're not eating all of the things that they would
There's lots of
normally eat.
disease. Yeah.
There's lots of disease, and then there's chemicals, and the chemicals are there to keep from having all of the fishes die, right?
Mhm.
Better have just some of the fishes die than all the fishes die, right?
I guess
But
so.
this is sustainable and wild caught. So, sometimes they'll say pole caught or line caught, right?
Does that actually mean that they were fishing and no?
No,
How? What do you
no,
what do you mean,
no.
Heather?
The reality is that there are maybe one or two companies that are actually fishing in a way that is safe for the fishery. Like, most of the fishery is not doing it right. But, this greenwashing that's occurring right now with the climate change and all of that shit, it's just being mislabeled. It's just not the right information.
It's completely distorted. And I feel like there's this huge push towards um fake food. I don't know what else to call it. Like like mayo that is not actually mayo. Veganese is one of the things. Like, you start to look at the amount of chemicals that are in that. I watched, and I know I don't take everything as solid gold. I take everything with a grain of salt, and I feel into it. And if I'm interested in the topic, I'm going to do more looking into it and stuff, just like, and have conversations just like we're having here today. And I remember watching this documentary on the fish. I think it was Seaspiracy. And I've been told that, not everything is really accurate and whatever. But what I noticed, there's a lot of information in there that I think was valuable and opened my eyes to how much damage large scale fishing is doing and stuff like that. And I'm grateful for that. I feel like that is accurate. But at the end, there's this hard twist, like hard right for, eat. I don't even know what it was. It was like shrimp, but it was lab created shrimp. And, like, that is the better way to go. Like, lab created burgers, like Beyond Meat burgers. And I don't mean to knock it. And if you have a different opinion, that everybody's entitled to one, that's okay. But how many more chemicals? And like, these are heavily processed things. Do you know what all of these indicators on the package are? Like, a lot of times it's like ribo blah 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 blah. You can't pronounce it at all. Do you know what that is? And if it's natural, if it's actually from a plant, if it's good for your body, if it's not just 3 molecules away from plastic.
Mm-hmm. It's funny when you were asking the question of like, well, what do they want us to eat? Like, what is this push, right? It brought up this movie that my mom and dad went and saw, and it was a theme of a party that they went to. And this was back in, I don't know, the 80s. I'm aging myself a little bit here. But there was and maybe you guys have seen it. It's called Soylent Green was the name of the movie. And it's basically where they took people and they recycled the people into like biscuits, like food biscuits, and then fed them to the people, right? So twisted, right? I didn't actually see the movie, but maybe I saw a couple minutes of it, but I was, I was fairly young and I was like, I'm not having any part of this. I'm going to my room. And so, my folks had come home from a party one night and there was a couple of cookies from the party and it said, Soylent on the cookie wrapper. And I was like, oh my God, it's that people food, it's like people in that biscuit. And so it's sort of funny because it was like, wow, that's really crazy. And when I first moved to Texas, we were in the like energy drink refrigerator section of the HEB, which is like our big grocery store here.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw in there that there was a packaged like milkshake smoothie thing in a package. And it said Soylent on it. And I was like, oh,
no.
Are there people in that? But I mean, the reality is that we are already eating frankenfood, right? They're already producing frankenfood. So going back to our original topic, I know we've kind of veered off here, hard right into when it comes to nourishing yourself, nourishing your body, nourishing your spirituality, you need to really look at your food as an important factor in how you're nourishing yourself.
Yes.
That said, eat clean. You'll feel better.
Yeah. Do what you can. I mean, just all of it can feel very overwhelming and like, oh my God, now I got to buy organic this and organic that. And I got to be very specific about this and that. And just take it with one step. You don't need to see the top of the ladder. You just need to see the next rung. Just one step at a time. Walk through it. What am I eating? Get curious about where that meat came from and how you feel when you eat it. I know that in Canada that compared to the States in the grocery stores, there's a lot of differences there. Like, I've never seen yellow meat before. And maybe this is because I grew up in a small town, like farming community, we always had like a half a cow in our freezer. So we had local food from here, local. So I'd never seen yellow steak before. And I was like, what is that? I didn't know what that was or why it was that way. And, apparently it's because it's corn fed and whatever. And that's not as big here as it is in the States. It's different, but start getting to know things, start sourcing. There's like apps galore on, local food. And I know for me, we grow our own vegetables. And that has been something that is important to me, because growing vegetables from your own garden, there's something healing about your hands in the dirt. And, that's how my husband, goes through his growth cycles. I see him change the more he works with the elements of earth. And so growing it does something for you. It's very nourishing, being grounded with the earth, but also eating your own food. I was harvesting potatoes last year and I had happy tears in my eyes. And Nate's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, look at this, like one potato, it grew to like this mound of potatoes. Like, how abundant is this, that, one potato became 10, and like, look how beautiful they are. And they were amazing. Like, they tasted wonderful. So even just starting to figure out where your food comes from, being more intentional about what it is that you are eating and understanding that whole process, that is a good step. Even if you're doing none of that really, but you want to start small, start blessing your food, start saying thank you to, the plate of food that is in front of you, and, God, universe, allow this to nourish me in the way that I need it to nourish my body at this time. Thank you so much. It can be something as simple as that, which will change the energetic structure and components essentially of the things that you're eating. It doesn't have to be the big, large, scrap everything changes. If you like ice cream, okay, keep eating ice cream, start changing smaller things. And eventually you'll get to the point where that ice cream or that thing that you used to love so much, craft dinner, no longer tastes great and you won't want it. You can start, baking your own pasta or making your own pasta, whatever it is, but doing things that from a conscious perspective rather than completely oblivious.
Well, and I think that, you're kind of touching on something too about the ice cream, right? If you like eating ice cream and it brings you joy and happiness, and you're like, this is like my happy time when I get to have my ice cream, that's also got value. So even if it is, sugary pus, that's okay, because it brings you happiness and there's a joy in that, right? So the nourishment,
don't
you
think
can
about
get
the
really
sugary pus.
crazy.
Yeah, don't think about the
Yeah,
sugary
don't think
pus
about it
when
like
you're
that,
eating
but
it. Yeah.
and if I ruin that for you guys, I'm really sorry. Like, just delete. But just think about the energetics of everything that you're taking in. And this isn't just food. This is your social media. This is the news that you watch, the movies you watch, the entertainment you consume. Do you have activities with other people? All of this goes into nourishing your physical body and nourishing your soul. And the most important thing is, how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Deep down, how do you feel? That's all.
Boom,
The end.
mic drop. Nothing else that needs to be said there. Make sure you click that like button and that you are subscribed, and tell 10 of your friends so they can come join us for these amazing conversations. Thanks so much for watching today. We will be back next week with getting in touch with your emotions, moving through them, moving through the hard stuff. It's going to be a great conversation. So we'll see you guys next week.